And welcome back. Here we are, tied at 0-0 because we weren't recording yet.
It would seem it's sudden kill. Oh, for our Australian audience, that was actually a New Zealand audience or accent.
Oh,
For our New Zealand audience, y'all's like doing way better than Australia. So like, like if I'm making fun of your accent, like just understand you guys got Hobbiton. There's nothing in Australia.
really? There's nothing in Australia?
I mean, they got Sydney, but it's mostly just desert in the middle. And they're right by the equator too, so everything's like real hot. Granted, New Zealand is too. But like Mega in New Zealand, like they're like fucking phenomenal as far as like web server stuff is concerned, cloud storage and all that stuff. So all right, Aaron. Let me pull up my dice. Yeah, definitely exited out of my dice. That's a bummer. Oh, I just exited out of Canva. Dice roller.
I got my dice.
All right.
Whose turn was it?
So you want to go first, Aaron? I think it was your turn. I think we ended
I rolled a
it.
1.
Ooh.
That's not very good.
So you get a hazard card and you have to roll a disadvantage. You might get a write up.
So I have to roll now. I roll a d6.
Well, you roll a d20.
I roll
now.
a d20.
Yeah, and that's going to determine what card you get from the hazard card deck.
Oh, okay. I got an 18.
You got an 18.
Yeah.
Technological automation. The company introduces technological advancements that result in job displacement or changes in job requirements. Players must adapt to automation, potentially facing challenges such as the need for
Retraining.
Need for retraining. Yeah.
Job insecurity.
But need for retaining your current job, obviously, because you need money.
Right.
And job insecurity. Yeah. So this could be like, I mean, with all the shit that they're trying to do with AI right now, like some
Right.
company in India was just boasting about like everybody kept saying that AI is a tool that can aid people, right? And that was going to be the cool thing about it, right? But within a month of that, like there's already a company in India who fired 90% of his workforce, and he's like, "Oh, it was absolutely necessary to do that because ChatGPT, they took it over and they did such a good job."
Yeah. Yeah,
And
necessary.
It's like, okay, he's like call times were at 2 hours. Now it's a matter of minutes. And it's like, so why couldn't you have ChatGPT do like most of like the receptionist style work or help desk style work, and then to offer an even greater customer service experience, have some of your guys back there who are specialists. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I can understand ChatGPT taking over some of our customer service things just because like sometimes in customer service one of the things that prevents people from having good times is just burnout. So they'll finish their call and then they'll wait a couple minutes to take that next call. But if it's
And I mean,
ChatGPT, then they're not gonna get burned out. They're just gonna go call, and they're just gonna be super productive, and that's what companies want.
I don't know. I think we should probably monitor their CPU temperatures. To make sure that they don't need a rest too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I think about the robots and our robot overlords. I welcome you.
I mean,
Elon Musk is making an AI company now.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because like some companies, you can just like replace everyone with an AI and it will do just as good of a job. Like anything that's like chat support, AI will be like really good at it because they'll be able to find information faster.
Yeah. And I mean, to some degree, that's fine, right? But how many times, because they've already implemented this in the past with, I don't even want to say AI that's not up to the task, but like basically with a series of flowcharts that
Yeah,
they programmed
exactly.
into a computer,
Yeah, I mean,
right? And how many times have you been frustrated where you're like, "You gave me 6
yeah.
options. I need the 7th option,"
Oh, yeah, exactly.
which is like
I mean, that is
yeah,
gonna be an
and, like, you
issue.
waste a bunch of time.
Yeah, because I mean, I've run into that before with, like, flowcharts and at work where, you just have to follow the flowchart, and sometimes the option is not on the flowchart, and sometimes the flowchart is written by an engineer, and those engineers, uh, don't really have real world experience of an item. So,
They
like
don't and they also seemingly don't care about said real
no.
world
Yeah.
experience. They just their documentation is secondary to what they're doing. What they make, it'll just function. Everything else can be handled by product company.
Yeah, which that's not that's fine.
Yeah.
I
I don't know. When engineering gets, replaced by AI, it might not be,
Yeah,
but
it's not. I mean,
we'll
I've
see.
dealt with engineers and just like they'll there's like a practical thing of like making something as small as possible so it doesn't take up as much real estate so it can fit in a smaller but like if you're working on that item and it's too small, you just can't physically work on it anymore. You're just like, I have to take this apart in order to work on it. This is not effective anymore. This is a waste. And
No,
everyone,
but they don't really care about that. They care about reducing costs
yeah.
initially and maintenance, that's a secondary
I
factor.
mean, part of like technology is trying to make everything smaller and smaller and smaller just so it's more compact. I mean, then we see that within technology, but I mean, sometimes like I don't know if you're working with generators, you can't you can't make it smaller because then you can't physically move your hand into the thing to replace the part. You just can't.
Well, at a certain point, it just becomes a replaceable component,
Yeah, it does.
and landfills are filling up because of all these replaceable components, and products are even being,
Mhm.
put out to where they are just a replaceable component. You buy this $100 product, we'll just say it's, some sort of network switch,
Right.
right? And it goes bad, but it's just the USB port that went bad on a very small board that is attached with a ribbon cable to the main
Yeah.
board, right? You could take it apart and very easily replace that smaller board, but good luck finding the part.
Yeah.
So instead, you send it to a landfill, even though the part probably cost $1 to
Mhm.
make, they could probably charge $10 for
Yeah.
it, right? They just don't view it as
Mhm.
necessary, I guess. But
Going back to like the
I don't know.
technological automation, I mean, a lot of things are already kind of like automated. I mean, that's what factories are for. Everything's on a machine. It's being all automated. You just basically just have to watch the machine and make sure it doesn't break down. And when it does break down, that's when you actually step in, turn off the machine, fix it, turn it back on. I mean, that's all automated too.
Yeah,
I mean, at
yeah,
my factory, it was called automated bag making. I mean, it was literally automated. It was in the title of the company. It's just,
right.
I mean, everything was
Yeah,
automated. I mean, and there was basically like one person per machine, and we just sat in front of the machine all day and just made sure that the machine ran. And it's just, and they're trying to, and I'm talking to my past workers before, and they're even trying to implement more automation to it, like where you don't have to, because like before you would have to basically when the order was done, you had to like package up the box, so you had to like physically move
yeah,
the box out of the machine, and then they started to automate that even more, so it would automatically push the item off the machine and get ready for the next batch. So it's slowly
yeah,
at and then they're even like trying to put everything on a conveyor belt, so it was even less work for people to do. I mean, they're just there's always trying to like automate everything, just so you don't have to rely on
right,
workers. Because, I mean, actually, in that factory, a lot of the time it's like it was 12-hour shifts, so they had a kind of a high turnover rate, just because people would get tired of like working 12s, and so they're trying to get less people because or they're trying to
right.
get more people less people to run more machines or things something like that, rather than getting to the root cause of like more benefits for the work. But then again, I mean, it's just cheaper to automate it. So it's kind of, I don't know. I think we're just going to eventually get to this point in our economy that 70% of the stuff that people do now is just going to be automated. And I don't know where these people are going to get jobs now.
Yeah, I have no
Uh,
idea. And then even more so, in the name of capitalism, who's going to be able to afford to buy any product aside from like food and lodging?
right. Yeah, it's going to be weird too. Like, I don't know where our economy is going
Yeah,
to, our economy is fucked. It's just,
yeah. But money doesn't really exist. It only exists in the mind of the
right.
beholder. So, like, are we going to just change the concept of money? Or are we
What's,
going to,
what's
like,
going to
what?
be funny
I
is,
I have no idea.
what's going to be funny is like when we start having to have more social programs to give people um like monthly like yeah, like
Stipend.
almost like just like here's a
I
monthly
know what you're
like
saying.
stipend, here you can use this to go buy what you need.
And you can inject that money into the
Yeah,
economy.
and
And it should be more than enough to live off of, and then the landowners are like, "Well, that's my property," and the going rate for property at this point
yeah,
is,
I mean, I know people.
$1,000 a
Yeah,
month.
and I know there have been studies with like just giving people free money to live off of, and either they had jobs. It was like in a wide range of people and their predicaments. Like some people didn't have jobs, or they had like low paying jobs. Some of them had middle income, so they were making like a livable wage, and then they were also getting like this free stipend, and then they had like more higher end people getting like a stipend. And then they kind of just did this study to
Mhm.
see like what people did with this money. And a lot of the like 90% of the people, they just improve their lives. Like they continue to work at their job and then just use that money to kind of like
Collected the
yeah,
money.
like they just use that money to get ahead and be more financially secured and like have a lower cost of living, so they
So
have a higher standard
so
of
are you
living.
suggest so are you suggesting that maybe if, we gave bonuses in the forms of not pizza parties,
Whoa.
and if we gave raises where, like, they're deserved and things like that, are you suggesting that maybe, according to the study, just maybe, we could make a difference in some
Um,
positive
I
respect?
think, my main point is if everything is automated, we'll be okay with giving everyone a stipend, but I don't know where that money is gonna come from. I guess
Yeah, because it can't come from the
what's gonna
tax dollars if the people aren't making tax
it's gonna
dollars,
be
right?
crazy when because the government's gonna have to collect taxes from more, businesses probably because 'cause they're the only ones with money, so they're gonna collect
Right.
more taxes from
But that's
companies.
weird because they keep giving them tax
Yeah, and
breaks.
the companies are using those tax breaks to get more money, but pay people less and automate more, so they don't have to
Yeah,
pay people, but the people need money to buy the products. So if we need a stipend, the government's going to take it from the companies anyway, so they can buy
right.
stuff. The government is basically going to pay people to buy stuff from rich people. That's what's going to happen eventually.
Pretty much, yeah, because that's the only way that the economy turns, and we can't give up on
Yeah, we
capitalism,
can't give up on
right?
capitalism.
Or amend it.
There's too much
We
money.
can't amend it
There's
at
too much
all.
money in our economy to not give up
Yeah, but
capitalism.
money doesn't actually exist. It's just numbers on a screen anymore.
Well, it's even more crazy than that because if you're like, I don't know, I don't know how familiar you are with like the stock market, but there's a thing called naked selling and short selling, where basically like
I know what they
yeah,
are, but our listeners
yeah.
might
So
not.
basically, a company that sells shares they don't have to own the shares. So like the DTCC, they like give out shares to companies for those shares to sell to retailers and like you and me and people like that. So they're called like retail sellers basically. And but companies don't actually have to own shares to sell them. They just like sell them, and then there's a thing where they have to cover those shares, and basically they just like
Yeah, basically they buy them at a certain
yeah.
price. They probably buy them in bulk, and they're like, "Hey, it's $3.50 right now, but I'll give you $3
Yeah,
for it
so
per
and
share."
sometimes
And then
people
like they have to make that
yeah.
cost up,
Y
with retail buyers.
yeah, and sometimes they'll even, like, swap with other hedge funds because the hedge funds will be like, "Well, I need these shares, but you need these shares, so let's swap real quick." And then they can cover their shares that they sold but didn't actually own.
Isn't that
It is
fucked?
fucked. It's crazy.
It's Well, that's just like subcontracting,
Yeah.
right? You don't actually have to own a business in order to, or let me rephrase. You don't actually have to own an electrician's business to be able to resell electricians'
Mhm.
labor. And like electricians, they might be charging, $150, $200 an hour, depending on the electrician, right? A smaller guy's going to probably charge less than some massive corporation. But with subcontracting, you can make that rate whatever you want. You're like, okay, well, $150 an hour because they give them so much work, they've dropped it down to $125 an hour. And now I just need to make up for that $125 an hour cost, but I'm going to charge $300 an hour and I'm going to preach on quality and I'm going to tell them how all the other guys in the industry do a bad job. And that's why you need to come with me. And then when the toll bells start ringing, for lack of better words, and they're like, "Hey, we you said that our lighting was gonna look like what it does in the
Mhm.
office, but out here in the warehouse, um, we can't see shit. You installed one incandescent bulb, and like we asked for LEDs, but whatever." And they're just like, "Oh, well, we can still do that. Like, let's reach a compromise. Give me more money, and I'll install a second incandescent bulb."
Then you have 2. That's double.
It's the ability,
I
yeah,
don't know what you need more than that for.
the amount of lumens. No, but like that's how some of these, and not all subcontractors are
Yeah.
like that. I want to make that clear that like a lot of subcontractors are out there just trying to do their best. And I
Yeah.
understand that because like, you know, I get that. I know a lot of
Yeah.
subcontractors and they're just trying to like put in the cheapest bid because just like Walmart, which that's another episode entirely, but like just like Walmart where they bring in a bunch of farmers and they're like, okay, so we're gonna start the bidding at 45 cents an ear of corn, now 44. Who's got 44? And they like kind of like auction it off, but in the reverse direction,
Yeah.
right? Which is really fucking like mm, that one still gets me because, like, if you've ever met a farmer, all they wanna do is just have their own land, have their own
Yeah.
it depends on the farmer
And then
too, but
Walmart sells it for $1 regardless.
yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, they paid 5 cents an ear of corn because everybody's like, "Fuck, dude, like, I can't afford to lose out on
Yeah.
this."
Yeah, it's crazy. It's fine. Everything's
But
fine.
anyhow,
So, I'm
yeah.
basically I
But
mean, a lot of
anyhow,
people are just gonna be replaced by technological automation. I mean, yeah, you can retrain it
well,
so you can
that's
actually, like, run the automation, but are the com is the company gonna pay for that, or are they just gonna hire someone that
they're gonna hire
they're just gonna
somebody
hire
who already
someone?
has the skill
Yeah, that's
set
what's gonna happen.
because it's cheaper to hire somebody for about the same
Mhm.
wage than it is to retrain somebody for thousands of
That's it.
dollars and lose that amount of time that they're retraining.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, a lot of machinists I know, when CNC started becoming a really big thing, right? Well, I guess it's been a big thing since I've been alive, but it's made advancements, right? A lot of machinists I know actually went out of their way to understand like
Mhm.
programming. Uh, that way, if there was an issue with a part, they could watch it over the course of a few parts and make adjustments,
Right.
right? 'Cause CNC isn't perfect. It's a bunch of stepper motors and servo motors working together. But they made a big effort to do that. And even when, because like in high
Yeah.
school, I almost went to a trade school for machining, and the instructor was like, "Yeah, just so you know, a lot of these jobs are going to involve CNC. Now, if you're like developed enough, then we'll focus on that. And a lot of those guys, they're focusing on
Hmm.
programming, so you might have to talk to the electricians depart or not electricians, the
Right.
electronics department on this. But at the same time, like you need to understand the fundamentals, and we'll teach you that the first year, and the second year we'll go into
Hmm.
programming." And it's like everybody who was in there, right, was just like, this is a good paying
Hmm.
job, and it's really easy as long as you can measure shit
Hmm.
accurately. And none of them had the patience to learn
Yeah.
programming,
And now
which
programmers are just being
that's to be
replaced by
expected.
AI.
I think that part's funny because like there's the most contentious of occupations.
And you need
Not
programmers to write AI.
yeah.
AI is not going to write itself.
And, like, they're like, "Oh, well, except it does, and it does it
It
better
kind
than
of
most
it
programmers."
will actually. Like what's crazy is like all these
And
people that are going to school for like programming right now and coding. By the time they finish school, they're they're gonna have to go back to school
yeah,
because everything's changed.
and it's gonna be weird because, like, they're gonna go back to school, and they're gonna have to go back to a tech school at that for automation
Yeah,
or for, whatever. Because the guys in India, they can do it
they
cheap
can.
for, like, anything like web development, server management, all that stuff, and every company out there knows
Yeah,
that.
and AI is gonna replace them.
That's why I got a Well, that's why I got out of web development though, is because like I saw like I'm like, yeah, there's no way a robot could ever replace this job when I got into
Hmm.
it, right? And then I saw how a bunch of Indian dudes were like replacing this job, and I'm like, okay, so like there's nothing safe over here. I mean, and they were great at what they
Yeah,
did. I mean, there are shortcomings in some respects because they're very focused on how much time something takes, and they're very quick to tell you, "That is not my
yeah.
problem."
What's also sad is like
But
they're just being taken advantage of because they're doing a good job, but they're being paid half the cost of what people get paid here.
oh, I think less than that from what
Yeah,
I
it's
gathered.
crazy. But like this.
I actually did this thing at one point where I was, like, trying to, not outsource things, but just have somebody fill in, like, where I
Mhm.
couldn't do a task, right? And the guy's like, "Oh, I could do this, but it's gonna cost you this much." And I'm like, "That's a lot of numbers." And then I did the conversion. I'm like, "It's like 40 bucks." Like, not that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Uh,
it's
but
yeah,
largely that was out of curiosity more than anything else. But it's like we will continue to exploit anybody and everybody who says they can do things cheaper.
yeah, and all because of money and for something that's, like, not even needed. Like, it could just be replaced by, like, people just deciding, "You know what? Maybe this product's just not even worth it." And then that company's bankrupt
Yeah.
because it's not a need people need, it's just a
Maybe
want.
maybe I don't need the newest iPhone
Yeah.
3000. Maybe I just am fine with my iPhone
So
2000.
I just had to get replace my phone, and I have an iPhone, and I had like an iPhone 10, like an X or something, and the 13 just came
Yeah.
out, and I was like, I don't need
Mhm.
the latest one, but
Right.
I got one because the difference in my monthly price for my phone was $3. Yeah,
Legit?
that's it. I mean,
Like, for the entire term?
yeah, it's like I was paying like it was gonna be like $24 a month for my phone, but like the 14 was like 27, and I'm like, might as well just pay the 27.
Well, and the people at Foxconn appreciate your generous donation, and they have installed one more suicide net because of your
Yep, it's crazy. Like,
uh,
I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore.
I don't think
Like,
either of us do, but we got a podcast about it, so stay tuned for next
like,
episode.
I don't I don't know what's gonna be going on in, like, the next 5 years. I mean, technology has changed so much, and
I don't
even in the past 5 years, I mean, things have changed. Things are getting smaller and faster,
I
and
mean,
now AI is in development even harder, and I don't know where things are gonna be in 5 years, and it's gonna be a wild ride.
yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of
If it makes you
frustration.
feel any better, I don't think any of us,
Yeah,
even the people who are developing this, I don't think that they
yeah,
know where
and
it'll
the only
be.
people that think they know where it's gonna happen are the people that are billions of dollars running corporations, and they're like, "Oh, man, think of all the people we get to fire to replace with, like, computers, and think of all the money that we'll make."
Think of all the money we can
Yeah.
make. Yeah.
Even though we just fired, like, 20,000 people, and now there's
Yeah.
20,000 less people buying products that I don't know.
I can't afford it. And then they're like, where did our margins
Yeah.
go? And it's like, well, you kind of killed them when you didn't allow for, it wasn't just you, but like, you kind of killed them when nobody had a job anymore.
So that's what's happening with technological automation. Everyone just loses their job and everyone's homeless.
Now roll with
Okay,
disadvantage.
so I roll a d20 now? But
You roll two
alright.
d20s and you take the lower
Oh, man, my
number.
first roll is a 20. My second roll is a 14.
And let me go up to
I
the
think nothing
chart.
happens. Nothing happens.
I think, yeah, you're at the high edge
Oh,
of
man, I
nothing
almost gained
happening.
a card by being
All right.
replaced by AI.
Nah, fuck.
Maybe I'm just so good
So
that
that
I
means it's my,
tell AI how to do the job. I'm really good at
yeah, yeah.
asking AI the correct way to ask something, maybe.
And I also understand that you're really good at flowcharts.
Yeah, that's all AI is. It's just a fancy flowchart. It's just yes, no statements.
Pretty much.
Actually, AI is probably a
But
little bit
isn't that
better.
all that logic is?
Yes. Yes, it is. Until you
All right.
are asked something that has a yes and a no. But it's not a
Oh
contradiction.
no. So now
Yeah,
we're talking about quantum computing at
yeah.
that point.
And that's what AI is
Yeah.
really not good at, is, like, if it's something factual based, it's really good at. If it's something that's, like, could be an opinion based, it's just not very good yet, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I don't know.
So I
Okay.
rolled. I got a 4.
Nice.
I got a decision card.
Ooh.
And it means that me as the player gets a meaningful decision or dilemma that impacts gameplay and the narrative. Booyah,
Oh,
bitch.
man.
Yeah, I know. I'm just waiting to see where my decision card is. I know I made this Word document so I could like hit a button on the side, but I'm really bad at Word documents. AI wouldn't be bad at Word
No, AI would be
documents.
really good
I
at this game.
can program in C++. I can't quite figure out how Microsoft Word works all the time. Mama said that I am not a smart man.
Was that a quote from something?
Anyhow, so it was a quote from Forrest Gump.
Uh, I don't know if I've seen that
Yeah.
movie all the way through.
So
Yeah.
really, it's like a cult
I've
classic.
never seen
Actually,
Sandlots either.
well, I mean, in your defense, I don't think I've seen that all the way through.
You're killing me,
So,
Smalls.
like, that's the only thing that I know
That's
from
the
that
only.
movie. And I think there's a dog.
I.
Pretty sure there's a bulldog.
That's the only thing I know from that movie.
But everybody loves it. Yeah.
And
Maybe that'll be our official like quote. You're killing me, Smalls. Every time we talk about a politician or some weird stance, you're killing me, Smalls. That way we can underscore it,
yeah,
but equally we realize we're just doomed.
it's true.
So anyhow, my 3 in the decision card gives me the negotiation stance. The player must decide on their approach to negotiating with management. They can choose between a more confrontational approach or a cooperative one. each with its own benefits and drawbacks in terms of gaining concessions or maintaining worker solidarity. So I'm trying to even think of the last time that I had any sort of negotiation stance at work.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I had a negotiation stance was like, I I need more money because I've been here for like X amount of years and I haven't had a raise. And that wasn't really a
Right. And
negotiation.
they're
It
just
was
like,
just like, hey, help.
this is a
Yeah.
statement.
Um, but like normally you can't negotiate with companies really well. Like I'm even looking at
Yeah.
the writers' strike right now. I read a thing where the writers' strikes, the companies are waiting for October, where everyone is basically homeless, so they can get a good deal with the writers.
Yeah. I mean, and that makes sense, really. Like,
I mean, I know some people
that's not how
negotiate
it
like
should be.
salary, but usually you can only negotiate salary if you know that someone that has been there for less amount of time is making more money than you, which is why you always talk about salaries with your coworkers. Because
I mean, you
yeah, I mean,
should, because like if they can gain an advantage off of it, then they should, and then you can piggyback off of that and say, "Hey, you gave them a raise. Why didn't I
yeah,
get
I
a
mean that is
raise?"
one thing that is actually like a law that companies don't want you to know is you're allowed to talk about your salary, and it's illegal for the company to be like, yeah, you can't talk about your salary.
Oh, hush, 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 hush. We're not allowed to do that. But here's a pizza
Yeah,
party.
yeah, and people will get. I mean, some companies will even
Let-
threaten.
Let's talk about puppies and productivity. And you guys have been hella efficient
Yeah,
lately. Here's to our morale.
good job getting us that 70% increase in profits last quarter. Here's a pizza party.
Here is $100 worth of food on
Here's a
us.
$15 gift card too. Also, don't talk about your salaries with other people. Otherwise, we'll fire
Yeah,
you,
we don't want to hear
even though it's
anything.
illegal.
Yeah, that would be it would be awkward if we had to fire you, but we will.
Yep,
We will.
yep. Um,
So,
and you can also talk to your local. I forget what company that you can labor something with labor. You can actually call them and you can be like, "Hey, this company threatened to fire me because I'm talking to I'm I'm trying to talk to my employees about my
it's
salary."
probably
Yeah,
OSHA,
OSHA.
which is weird because they're like the only person advocating for us as far as a government official is concerned, right? But they're all about safety. So yeah, fuck you again,
Yeah,
Ron.
I think
But
there's a labor organization too that you can call for things like that also.
there's a labor
Yeah,
department.
but like they'll also
You can actually look up your salary. It's probably the Bureau of Labor
yeah, probably.
Statistics. No, that can't be right. But either way, you can actually look up what people are making who do your
Hmm.
job via the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You don't even need to ask your coworkers, but if you've been doing something for like 3 years and you're not getting paid that average amount, then you probably need to have a talk with your boss. And he can't actually do anything because, I mean, he can say
Yeah,
no, sure, but you can also find a new
you can.
job. You can tell him that,
Yeah.
and he can't really do shit about
No,
that.
you just hire someone else,
So,
and that's one thing that our economy is really good at is having this high unemployment rate. Because if you have a high
yeah,
unemployment rate, then it gives coworkers and employees less of a leg to stand on when they try and negotiate. Because there's always this thing of like, yeah, I can just fire you and get someone else. And we have
yeah,
this high unemployment rate right now, where X amount of people are unemployed, so there's lots of people looking. But it's also weird because
yeah.
I don't know where our unemployment rate is right now, but I do know that a lot of people
I
are
have
also
no
hiring.
idea.
So we have
Yeah.
this weird thing.
Yeah, pretty much
We
everybody
have this
is.
weird thing where there's like a high unemployment rate, and then also a ton of people are hiring.
Yeah. But nobody wants to take the jobs because they don't pay shit.
No,
And they're like, why won't people just work for their money? And it's like, well, that's because like it's not adequate. Like they can find ways to get by like without a
yeah,
company. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and some of those are government stipends, like we were talking about
hmm
unemployment or whatever. But other ones are like, no, I can literally just build decks for a
Yeah.
living, and I do it, and I work 10 hours a week building decks, and then after that I do about 20 a week in marketing my decks.
Yeah.
And it's like, but 10 hours a week, multiply that by $200 an hour, that's $2,000, and somebody can get by.
Yeah.
And that's a bad example, but you get
Yeah.
my point.
There's also this like
You don't need a whole lot.
we had this weird thing with housing market in the past about, I don't know, 5 years, where the housings have just skyrocketed. So houses have like doubled in price.
Yeah.
I bought my house in 2013 at 75 and I sold it for 130. Um
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna have trouble buying a house because housing has doubled, but my wages haven't doubled. Like I make an
No,
extra
no, they have
couple
not.
bucks an hour, but that's
The weird thing is, I just looked at the inflation rate not too long ago, and the government's stating it's like 3.5% a year since COVID or something
Mhm.
like that. I'll have to find the exact statistic, but it's like, I don't know how they're getting that number, because that number is definitely not
Yeah.
right.
Well,
Like, everything's pretty much doubled in 2
yeah.
years, 3
Well, what's
years.
funny is like
It minimally
the
doubled.
inflation's based off of, it's like 30% of it is based off of, it breaks down to
It's probably based
like a
off.
couple of things. So it's based off like inflation, it's based off like companies raising their prices, and it's based off like um
I
employment.
would have thought it would have been based off of raw
Yeah.
materials, just given how like low they gave that
Yeah.
percentage. And I'm like, man, like I'm feeling way more than that. And then you look into it, and they're like, yeah, Cleveland's above average. And then you look into another city, and they're like, yeah, they're well above average. And it's like, is this just like
Yeah.
Wyoming or some shithole like that? Like, but anyhow, so not to completely derail the conversation, but I have to roll
Yeah.
again to determine, do I have any
Y-
sort of
Did
up
you
and up with
negotiate?
my negotiation stand? Yeah, I have no idea yet. So,
I
um,
hope you
but I'll
negotiated.
go again. Before I roll this, the winner of this is just whoever has the highest amount of points at the end of this. I thought this would be much easier, but apparently we both suck at rolling dice. So,
Yeah.
agreed. All right. I got a 5. So I'm now God damn it. I now have a write up,
Oh,
I think.
you're right up. You're of -1.
Uh,
I'm winning now.
you definitely are, and now every roll that I have is at disadvantage from this point on. Yeah, definitely lost a card. Excellent. When we were tied, I'm gonna lose this game real
Yeah,
quick.
now that you have a write
But
up and having disadvantage, I mean, but you can if you get a card, you
lost
can
this
get rid of your
game.
disadvantage, right?
Yeah, yeah, I could, but and I basically get 3. I can have 3 turns to do that
Mhm.
in. I believe it's your turn
Oh
to
yeah.
roll.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I rolled a 6.
Oh, you get a resource card. You get a roll with
Oh my
advantage.
gosh.
Yeah. But you have to roll a d20 first to determine which
I
card.
rolled a 13.
Community Support Network represents the player's connections and relationships within their community, offering them assistance or resources in times of need. I found that like a lot of people generally, like they don't really know what rights are available
Yeah.
to them and what company resources exist within like the HR department. They can make a fancy site all they want, but like people don't really know unless other people
Oh
tell
yeah, for
them.
sure.
You
And
know
it's
what I mean?
almost like they keep it hidden
So,
too. Like they're not gonna.
to some degree,
I mean, some
yeah.
companies just don't tell you what you actually get, or what benefits you
Yeah.
get, or what
Like,
resources we have available to you. Some are really good about it, and they'll just tell you, yeah, you have all these great things,
mhm.
and you can use them. But Also, some companies are like, here's some benefits that we give people, but we don't want you to use them either, like sick days. You're like, oh man, you get all these
Yeah,
free sick days and paid, but also don't use them.
yeah, yeah. I get it. And like also like things like, oh, let's just take substance abuse as an issue,
Hmm.
right? A lot of companies will pay for that treatment.
Oh,
Like you wouldn't, yeah, you wouldn't even realize it, and a lot of that falls under short term
yeah.
disability. But as soon as you go to talk to your supervisor about it, like their first thing is, well, fuck, dude, like we can't really be a man down right
Yeah.
now. Like that's not.
Or like the company will say, you don't get this FMLA because under law you have to be here a year to earn it. But that's just this. That's just like the company saying, we can give you FMLA because we're a free market and we can give it to you definitely before a year, but by law we have to give it to you after a year. Otherwise we get fined.
That's not even that
Yeah.
necessarily. It's that we could choose to give this to you
Yeah.
anyways, but it's gonna like our
Yeah.
shareholders, they're not gonna like that.
It's true. And they're not going to like that you get FMLA after a year by law. But
Yeah,
I mean, we can definitely give it to you before. I think my other job had FMLA before. It was like 3 months. It was like you get FMLA in 3 months, and then I worked at somewhere else. I was like, you don't get FMLA until a year, so don't have
yeah,
anything major come up because we can fire you.
yeah. You can and you can obviously control
Yeah.
that, right?
So,
Yeah,
but they also don't have to fire you if they like you, and they can definitely give you the FMLA, and they won't fire you.
they could create an
Yeah,
exemption
they'll be
for
like,
you.
"All right, we'll give you this like half pay, or like we won't fire you, but you don't get paid for it, or they'll work with you, but like they don't have to." And
No, and that's kind of despicable if after 90 days you're not treated like a human being. They're like, no. After 90 days, you get some basic rights, but after a full year, that's when we'll really invest
but
in you. You've
we
proven
also don't
yourself.
want you to use it either.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
do that. That would make us look bad.
yeah,
But it does exist if you need it, but don't need it.
yeah. And it's so weird that like some jobs are like they don't you're not they don't depend on you. So like if you work for a company with like I don't know 200 people working the same thing that you're doing, let's say you work at a call center. Like if 20 people call off, you still have like 180 people there. It's not gonna like,
Hmm.
yeah, I guess the customers might have higher call volume and they might be on hold for longer. But it's not hurting anyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of those guys are getting paid, I shouldn't even say flat rate, but they're trying to meet their quotas and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, this is what happens when like you don't take the unexpected into
Hmm.
account. Like I was always told, quote high, charge
Yeah.
low. It's not that hard of a
No.
concept. But with how competitive the workforce is, especially for like subcontracting on, we'll just say plumbers and electricians and carpenters and
Yeah.
stuff like that, the skilled trades, um, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's one of those things where like the industry has already gotten used to bastardizing these
Yeah.
guys. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, we need to have competitive prices. And when they say competitive prices, they just mean we need to have the labor as cheap
Yeah.
as we can because that's the biggest problem.
Yeah. Also, some people
It,
do like
it
they'll do pay when the job's done, not like every time you go out you pay like a fee for that. And that's nice
yeah,
because then you won't get shitty people like, oh yeah, it's $100 every time I come out, and then they purposely break or not do it correctly, so they have to come out again. I mean, that
Yeah.
should just be a law,
Well, I
but
mean,
whatever.
well, like, I don't even that's been bastardized to some degree. I mean, take flat rate mechanics as an
Yeah.
example, right? Like these guys, like, they're told that this job should only take this amount of hours
Mhm.
to do to replace a ball joint or, a CV axle or whatever, right? This job should only take this long. And it's like these jobs were literally calculated by using 10 mechanics and taking the average of those 10 mechanics in regards to how much time
Mhm.
this takes, right? These 10 mechanics got the job because they were, how do I want to put it? They were good at what they
Yeah.
did, right? So, like, you're comparing it to, like, some of the best mechanics out there, and then, like, they'll hit a stopwatch and they'll stop when they have to search for a socket or
Mhm.
something like that. It's like, that's not how the real world works at
Yeah.
all. You don't just get to stop when it's convenient
Right.
for you. And then for, like, a Ford Taurus transmission replacement, you get, like, 10 hours when everybody knows it's a 24-hour
Oh,
job. It's a bastard of a job. And then these poor flat rate mechanics, they work 24 hours at, like, we'll just say $30 an hour, but they only get paid for, like, 10. Like, the flat rate system literally exists to benefit the
yeah,
factory,
exactly.
and the benefit like, there's a lot of instances like this, but a lot of these systems only exist to benefit Ford or
Yeah.
Chevy or, whoever the big guy is who's paying the bill.
Yeah.
And everybody is just like, "Oh, we'll do it, we'll do it, we'll do it. We need work, bring us more work, blah, blah, blah," right? But at the end of the day, sometimes the work that they're
Mhm.
offering you, if everybody would just stick together within the industry, sometimes the work that they're offering you isn't it's not worth
Yeah.
it. So somebody comes in with a transmission problem, tough shit, take it up with another
Mhm.
place. And then that place is like, "Tough shit, take it up with Ford." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's really willing to stand up for themselves when it comes to the amount of money
Right.
coming in.
And it's crazy that
Like, warranty
go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say warranty literally exists in
Mhm.
those fields, not to make the dealership
Yeah.
money. It is not. It's literally just to reimburse the dealership because you're now part of the Ford network or
Yeah.
whatever. Could be Chevy. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're all the same, but warranty work literally only exists so that way the dealership breaks even off of it. But the dealership refuses not to have a profit, so you end up with just screwing the guy who you I mean, that's why mechanics, they often have a saying, "Fuck you, pay
Yeah.
me."
Yeah. But
So,
that's why you always have
but
that community
that's neither
support
here nor
network, like food stamps.
yeah, yeah. So what did you roll? You got advantage.
Oh, did we talk about your community support network? A little bit.
I don't know. A little bit.
I also
I
think
don't
it's
know.
weird that
These are
people
things
have to rely on socialism when capitalism doesn't pay employees enough.
yeah.
And
It's weird. It's like we made these recessions because we realized we have a flawed system, but we're not gonna do anything about the system.
and now some people have like this diehard hatred for socialism, but like everyone really kind of relies on socialism and to if you're like lower to middle class. Yeah,
I'd agree.
everyone benefits from socialism. That's what socialism's there
It's
for.
kinda
It's almost
fucked,
like the
right?
definition of socialism is everyone benefits from it. But
Yeah.
whatever.
At least idealistic socialism.
All right.
But
What's my D6 though? I got a 2.
well, no, you gotta roll 2
Oh.
D20s and you take the higher of the numbers.
Oh. I thought I rolled a D6 for first for the
You're the one who rolled the community support network
Oh, I did? I
on
thought
the
you did.
resource card. Nope. I definitely lost a card,
Oh.
and now I gotta write them.
Oh. Oh, so I have to roll another
My
I have to
job
roll
perspective
okay.
was look
I rolled a
you roll
I
2
rolled an
D20.
11 and a 15. Nope. 16. I got 16.
Okay.
Oh.
So you gain a card
Oh,
from it.
look at that. I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm winning.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, yeah.
Winning for now.
So, well, I mean, I think we can do this. You'll get another roll. I started last, so I get 2 more
Mhm.
rolls, right? But I'm rolling with disadvantage right now. So, we'll see how this goes. So I got a 2 and then I got a 3.
What was your card draw type?
Oh no, it's I'm trying to find the Word document. It's really hard playing this not in person. Cuz I'd be like roll a d6, grab a card,
Yeah.
right? Um but I got an action card which provides players with specific actions or abilities they can take during their turn. I won't get to use any of those, but
Maybe you'll lobby for a policy change.
I hope so.
Then
But I know me, and I know I'm spineless. So I get to build solidarity, which is wonderful for
Oh,
me. The action card enables the player to actively build solidarity among workers, fostering unity and cooperation. It could grant bonuses to teamwork, negotiation, or resisting attempts to divide the workforce.
but the
All right, so
yeah, and the company actively usually tries to ben get people to side with the company, so there isn't like this solidarity, because if they all work together, they know that they can get what they want because they'll go on strike. But they don't want
yeah,
that.
no, no, they
You
do
know,
not, especially if it interferes with profit.
people.
So anyhow, let's see
All
how I
right.
rolled. Give me dice. I got a 20 and a 10, but I'm rolling with disadvantage, so nothing happens.
Oh well. Or they should have built solidarity.
No, I think I tried to build solidarity, right? And then somebody in there was like, "This sounds like union bullshit, and I'm not a union
Sounds like
man."
socialism. I'm
And I'm
opposed to
like,
this.
"Yeah, my wages are fair at $8.65 an hour. Did you know you could be making $15? Who the fuck is making $15 an hour here?" That's what
Yeah.
I got. And then a bunch of people were back there like, "Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not making $15 an hour."
Yeah. You gotta pull yourself up by your bootstraps at
Yeah.
8.75
That way I can make $16 an
or
hour.
9.
That'd be
Yeah,
even
maybe
better.
that guy that's making 8.75 wants to make 9. But he's probably been there for like 20 years, and his wages capped like 18 years ago. So he's just stuck at 8.75 while new hires get paid at like 18. Cuz that's fair.
It's a job and it's a dirty job, but we got more money and hired new hires than we do keeping my wages alive. And I don't want to figure it out at my age of 73, so I'm going to keep working.
At least most companies have this inflation wage where you get a little bit of a raise every year. But the idea of like you just cap on your wage because you can't learn anymore, you just have to like work your way up the totem pole to get promotions to get like a higher wage. That's kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like there's almost no
It's
incentive
a little
to
bit
actually stay
bizarre.
at a company for more than like 5 to 10 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why you see a lot of people our age, right, who are jumping back and forth between jobs at different
Yeah.
companies, right? That way they can negotiate for that higher wage because every time they jump to a different
Yeah.
job, they end up with a higher wage, and then they can come back to the same company 6 years
Yeah.
later, and end up with let's say they were making $20 an hour, and now all of a sudden they're making 30, and that's way more than they would have made had they stayed with
Yeah,
the
but the
company.
company
company might even
The
like
company
them.
wants that because let's say like a company offers a pension if you're there for 25 years, and that's like a selling point for people to get this job. But they know that they're gonna cap their like they're not gonna get a wage increase, so they know that people are gonna quit.
Well,
So like it's just like a fake
mm,
benefit that never happens.
what I've noticed is that in the jobs that I've worked, you get a matching 401k up until like 3% or
Yeah.
5%, depending on the place, right? Even in
Mhm.
nursing. And then you give your money to this retirement
Yeah.
fund, your 401k or 403b in my previous instances. But either way, you give your money to them, they'll match it, but like these companies have no fucking clue what they're
Yeah.
doing, and you'll lose what you matched.
I always opt out of 401ks because like part of me thinks it's a scam. I don't know how it's a scam, but I mean what you just said it kind of makes it scammy. But like
Well, what I always do is I always look into like putting it into foreign
mhm.
currencies because a lot of those are more stable than the US dollar. And then I usually end up with like a 1.5% interest. But everybody else at work is bitching about
Yeah, I
what doesn't
just
make
opt out of a 401k and then I just take that money and I either
run.
put it towards like my cost of living. So I'll either try and pay off some of my debt so like I have a standard of lower cost of living, so I have a higher standard of living, or like I'll look into like buying shares of like a stock or something and just like assuming because like I can't
Well,
do anything with like that price match because you can't touch it for 30 years until like you retire. So yeah, I mean
and like, yeah, so it doubles at one
yeah.
point, right? You got to be vested for at least 5 years for it to double,
Hmm.
right? But there's a lot of math that happens in between where you lose a lot of that.
Yeah, and then you also can't touch it. Like, what's the point of like having
Yeah,
money if you can't touch it? Like, I need money now,
right.
so I'm just gonna use it now. And then if I invest well, I
Yeah,
can probably invest more than or better than that like that price match of 5 or whatever percent. Then I'm just
yeah.
making more money than like a 401k has to offer. But I mean, I could also lose money too, depending on like what I invest in the stock market. But like that's just like one thing.
Well, generally, though, that's
Yeah,
offset by the inflation rate, at least
yeah,
recently. You put money in, like it's going to gain 3% annually. Well, that's great because the inflation rate is 5% right now. So I'm still
yeah.
losing money.
Unless you like invest in index bonds because they have like a good history of actually making money. But or you can like I don't know.
Are you saying
Yeah.
index funds? I thought you said dex bonds.
Index funds.
Oh, that's entirely different than dex bonds. I was wondering what a dex bond was, and I was like, do I need to look into this?
Index. Index funds.
Yeah, and the funny thing about index funds too is like they're even those are becoming bastardized to some degree, so that way you kind of go after those
Yeah.
index funds, right? But they're not actually index funds. They only take over a sector of the
Yeah. I
market.
mean
It's just meant to keep the rate on those
right now
lower.
banks are offering like almost like 5% for like a CD. So if you keep your money in like a
Yeah,
CD for 13 months, you'll get 5% back, which is better than kind of like a lot of
a
other
savings
things. So
account.
you can honestly just
Hmm.
get that same money from that
Hmm.
price matching and just put in a CD. And sometimes like that CD just you'll have a higher percentage in the next year or something like that. But CDs are pretty good now, right
Yeah,
now. I mean, I mean, banks used to do like
yeah,
10% interest rates, and now they're like 0.1% unless you do a CD. But like, they're just hoarding your money so they can invest it themselves and make millions. I feel like banks
yeah.
are a scam,
So
but you
like
need them.
what you get, you need somebody to hold on to the money, but if each and every one of us went down to cash out what
Yeah.
we're owed, they wouldn't
No,
have
they
enough,
wouldn't.
and they're not required to have
No,
enough.
which is also crazy. Like they banks can insure your money up to like 250,000 or something like that.
But if your money means nothing, which kind of seems like we're headed in that direction, given the fact that we don't want to talk to either side right now and figure this out. And everybody's like, "Oh, I agree with the right, I agree with the left, blah
we
blah blah," and
we
it's
just came
like,
into agreement
you
for
don't
something
really.
actually, and it was um, the right and left both agree that they should be able
We're paying too much
that
interest.
the right and left should be able to or politicians should be able to invest in the stock market. Because a bill came by,
Oh,
yeah, a bill
good.
came by saying like we should ban politicians from investing, and they're like, "No, we agree that this is bad. We want to invest."
This is July 23rd, by the way. If anybody's listening right now, invest in lithium mines. And the reason being, you will make a decent amount of profit off of it. I would estimate probably between 7 to 12%, which, yeah, it's a wide margin, but still. We're not going to give up on lithium batteries for some reason. It's not that complicated, but there are better alternatives that are coming out every day. Keep those in mind, but nonetheless, you're probably safe for 2 years because nothing receives widespread adoption in the research stage. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 years for that research stage to push its way to development. So,
There's also websites that track politicians and what they buy and sell in the stock market, so you can just follow what they do also, because they probably have insider
I
information.
didn't know about
Oh
this.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
thing.
it is.
Dude, that's awesome. I know where I'm. Scratch what I said, gentlemen. Go with them.
A lot of yeah,
They
a lot of politicians invest in waste management because it's something that we all pay taxes into, but it's also a for profit.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
well, and I'm always the weird thing is I'm always surprised at how cheap it is to haul away the shit I don't want.
yeah,
So, like, it's like I think it costs us like $20 a month or something like that, and it's like got a big diesel truck coming around 2 times a week to pick up the shit I don't want and take it to someplace I don't care about. I mean, granted, a lot of that sort of thing has to change here soon, and we'll be feeling it eventually. That's why my grandparents they ended up like going to burn barrels at one point because $5 a month and an increase was too high.
I get it.
It's not too high now.
No,
It meant more then. Actually, technically, that was my great grandparents. Yeah.
I got a discount on my garbage bill when I was living in Akron if I recycled, and like I would put stuff in the recycling bin that just wasn't recyclable, like those black plastic garbage bags. Those weren't recyclable. You shouldn't be
Yeah.
putting them in, but I did. And I got my discount. I got like $25 off or something.
Yeah. Well, the thing about all that is that, like most cities, they end up subsidizing, or sorry, they end up subcontracting out recycling
Yeah.
because they don't really know a whole hell of a lot about it. I mean, yeah, some cities will compost, like my city will compost, like if you put out like your hedge trimmings and lawn clippings and all that, right? Though it is better to leave lawn clippings on the ground, so I'm not 100% sure why we're all weird about this pure lawn thing, but whatever. That aside, they'll still take you like your clippings from your limbs and uh, other things like that.
Dog poop. It's good
But
for your
they
lawn.
have no clue how to. Yeah. I mean, they have no clue how to do the rest of it though, like recycling plastics. So they
Yeah.
subcontract it out, right? And that subcontractor bases their rate off of the percentage of actual recyclable
Hmm.
materials that they receive. And here they don't check, they don't give a shit,
Right.
right? As an example, I once had a tire that was not at all recyclable,
Hmm.
and it wouldn't fit in my trash can. And I said, because we just lost our contract with them, and I said, "Fuck them," and I threw it in there because, like, why am I paying for recycling if you're not actually going to recycle.
Yeah.
So I threw it in there.
Yeah.
I never got fined. I never got caught.
Yeah.
Didn't
Some
matter.
sign
It's a
just did
tire,
that.
though. I got really irritated at the guy who sold me the new tires, and he's like, "Oh, that didn't include the recycling fee for the old tires." And I was like, "You said that was all costs included. Why did you leave out the recycling fee?" "Oh, well, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Well, then no. I don't care that it only costs $10 per tire. No. You said that was all costs included." And then, well, we can reduce it to 5. No. You instantly lost my trust with that statement when previously you said all costs were included. All costs would include recycling costs.
Makes sense.
But it's your turn to
Oh,
roll.
okay.
And we're doing this one more time. Winner takes all, and I hope you lose 2 cards.
I rolled a 6 for my
You rolled a
D6.
6. God damn it.
So I got a rescue
Again?
cards, roll with advantage.
It's not a rescue card, it's a
Resource card. My bad. All right.
Yeah. Reading is hard.
It is. What's my my thing? I got a 12.
You get to roll for advantage. You got a 12. So you got mentorship program,
Ooh.
which provides the player with a mentor who offers guidance, advice, and support, granting them advantages in decision making or problem solving.
You know, mentor is actually really nice. I'm glad companies have like a mentor system to help you out for. But I also kind of wish mentors.
That can be abused.
Yeah, I wish kind of mentors also were a bit more honest about like how awful the job is sometimes, but they don't tell you that until after you've been there for like 6 months.
Because they've been sucking it up for 20 years. So,
Yeah.
like, can you really blame them?
I mean, the things that people put up with for like 5 to 10 years, they're just like slowly becoming more accustomed to it because they they kind of have to, otherwise they have to quit or find something new. But they just like accept it. They're just like, all right, this is fine, and then eventually all those things that are fine like add up to be not fine. But that's just how it is. But I generally have like positive things to say about my trainers and people that have mentored me in my past jobs. I just know that they can't also be super honest with new hires because then they'll most likely quit.
The new hires will quit.
Yeah, exactly. All right, my first roll was 12,
Give me one
and then I got a 20.
God damn it.
I know.
You got 2
Man,
cards.
I'm just.
Give me 1 sec.
All right, because I just gained 2 cards.
You do have 3 cards.
Man, and I can like use all 3 of my cards and give you disadvantage for like the rest of your life.
You could, but we've only got 1 more turn.
Yeah, and you
so,
already have,
like, if you want to
and
do
you already
it,
have disadvantage, I think,
negative.
right?
I have a write up. Yeah. Fuck. All right.
I'm doing great at my job. I think I was a writer
You,
that got replaced by AI. So
you were a writer. Yeah. By the technological advancements. Yeah. All right. Well, I already know my luck is terrible. I can speak intelligible and all that shit. Oh, cool. I got a 6.
Nice.
Yeah. I can't. By the rules of the game, I can't beat you.
No.
All right. So what?
But you can probably gain a card, maybe, because like the advantage.
I got a 10.
Oh.
Well, no, I got a 10 in
okay.
regards to what card I picked.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is employee assistant program voucher. Provides access to counseling services, mental health support, and other form of. Oh, we talked about this a little bit, and how companies don't actually tell you that this is available.
Yeah. So basically, I'm a meth addict.
But I thought you were an accountant.
Company did right by me. Well, maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. I get to roll with advantage though. So first roll is a 7.
Is it a wash them because you have disadvantage?
Yeah, pretty much. And my first roll was a 17.
Oh,
So, like, basically, advantage gets canceled out with disadvantage, just like
so you
Dungeons and
gained a card.
Dragons. With 17, yeah,
Yeah,
but you got 3.
yeah. So
But I think it's important at this point to note that, like, just because somebody else is doing better than you at the workplace, that's not a reason to shit on their parade.
yeah.
Like, so somebody's doing good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got a couple of people like that who are like, "Oh, it would have been nice to have a break in my day and
Hmm.
age," and it's like, well, it probably would have been. I'm not really arguing with that, but at the same time, like, that has nothing to do with like he's getting some sort of advantage here, right? Like, so he's just gotten that advantage, and it took 30 years to get to this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you haven't received yours yet, but now this is a bartering chip. This is something that you can come back and say physically, hey, like, so he got a $5 an hour raise because, like, y'all realized you were underpaying him, or he got $1,000 bonus because, like, you realized that you mistreated him. I went through the same things. Like, where's my recognition?
Hmm.
And if they don't give you that recognition, you move on because obviously that company does not give a fuck about you.
No.
And it can be hard to make that sort of decision, but eventually, like, you're not getting anything out of it. It should be a pretty easy decision to make.
Yeah. I
If you are getting something out of it, you can't compare your successes to somebody
I
else's.
wish more people would understand that like the company isn't looking out for you. They will throw you under the bus at any moment. And
Well, our profits aren't high enough because these 7 guys didn't do the jobs in the amount of time that we demanded, even though they were all 20, or sorry, 2002 Ford Tauruses that needed replacement transmissions under
mhm.
warranty. They did not make us money, even though the job was set up to fail. That doesn't matter. They didn't make us money. We needed money to be made.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate when people talk about how they're also salary and
Yeah.
they'll put like, I don't know, 120% into the job. Like they'll work overtime, they'll go out, come in on their days off, they'll stay longer, but like they're not getting anything from it and they're not going to gain anything from it. The company wants you to do that and they're going to be like, "Oh, great, that's free money." But they're never going to
One
like,
bitch of that is that you see that a lot with fast food
yeah.
workers, right? Somebody gets a promotion to assistant manager, right? Like one more step, they're store manager, but they have to earn
Mhm.
it. And it's like, okay, well, while you could earn it, you should be paid while earning it, not giving a bunch of extra money to a multi-million-dollar corporation.
Right.
But a lot of them fall into that trap where if I just work a little bit harder
Mhm.
right now, I mean, I almost fell into that trap at one point, and it's like it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to fall
I
into that
can get
trap.
there by transferring jobs too.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people fall into that trap of, maybe if I do this extra thing, the company will, treat me better. But that's never the case. I mean,
Yeah,
statistically speaking, they're not looking out for you. If you do
no,
anything wrong, that will cost them money.
Sti-
Even if you've been like the best employee for 20 years, they'll still fire you. If
right.
they're gonna cost it, if they're a liability any way, shape, or form at any point, they'll get rid of you. They don't have your back.
And in this instance, yeah. Well, and in this instance, why don't they have your back? Because it's way easier to listen to their bosses who are bitching about how the shareholders want more
Yeah.
money, which is,
Yeah.
I think, a perfect segue into this next episode, really.
More workers' rights.
No, more about how shareholders in the stock market,
Ah, okay.
because we were talking about the stock market
Yeah,
earlier, and shareholders are a big part of what kind of makes that run.
it is.
And I mean, it's obvious to see that from the outside, but first you would have to define a shareholder,
Yeah.
because apparently certain people get controlling interests and yada yada
I mean,
yada.
technically, I'm a shareholder because I hold shares of stocks, but like, I don't really matter. They don't look at my
Yeah,
interest.
because you own like 0.015% of a
Yeah.
company.
If I own
And same here.
if I own 10 shares of a company, I I get a vote for things,
Yeah,
but like,
well,
you know,
and think about your retirement too. Like, how many stocks are you paying into? Well, maybe not you, but specifically in my instance, like, how many stocks am I paying into where I don't have any say?
yeah.
But somebody who owns 100 times the amount of
Hmm.
me, like, they get all the say.
Right.
And if this is how they make a difference, then it's hard to suggest that somebody who has no money should, you know, invest in this to make a difference.
Yeah.
But is that the only way we can make a difference? Because right now, from my perspective, it sure as shit seems like that's the only way to make a difference is if you have money.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it kind of looks like to me too. I mean, I can work a job for 50 years and
Hmm.
live, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what retirement's going to be like, and I don't know
Yeah.
if my government's going to take care of me for when I get to that retirement age.
Well, from everything I've heard, Social Security won't exist, but there might be a new system that's like Social
Yeah.
Security, but it probably will be defunct because it won't have enough funding.
I mean, we can't.
We need to increase taxes. That's what I keep hearing. Increase taxes, but only on the poor.
I mean, all you have.
They're not paying their fair share.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, these poor multi-billion-dollar corporations, they have to foot everybody's dollar.
it's true. I mean, they just have to not put a cap on Social Security, and then we can fund Social Security. Like, there's a cap, but you don't
Oh,
pay any more of a percentage of your income for. I think it's like 186,000. So if you make $500,000 a year, your that same percentage is based off 186. So it's it's
the real problem is that people dipped into that fund not realizing that that fund grows
I
exponentially,
don't have a Social
or
Security.
rather, realizing.
I don't have a retirement fund.
I do,
Yeah.
but it might as well just be throwing pennies at a fucking air conditioner and watching which don't get chewed up in the process. But somebody will throw the same amount of pennies at it and they'll still get chewed up by the air conditioner. And then I might be lucky to have half of them. That fan's awful strong. And then I need a new air conditioner because some homeless dude just threw a bunch of pennies at an air conditioner after I did. And he's a cool dude, but Jim, like, fuck you,
Maybe
Jim.
you shouldn't throw pennies at an air conditioner. Just keep your pennies.
Probably not. Yeah. Well, that's why I'm trying to transition out of this whole like owning my house industry into becoming an expert on Canva. And speaking of that, this week our sponsor is oh yeah, no one.
Oh.
Womp womp.
It's fine.
Yeah. Nah. We haven't even released these episodes yet, so
One day.
maybe there's some benevolent billionaire
Oh, maybe.
out
Maybe
there.
they'll go to our Patreon and give us
Yeah, and donate like 30 cents.
or 30 million.
30 cents.
That's a lot of money.
Oh,
I don't need
man.
30 million to retire.
Shit, man. Somebody just donated like $50. That'd be cool. That's not saying that'll do me much for retirement, but like that'd be cool.
Yeah. That's like a tank of gas.
Yeah. Pretty much. And like, I mean, honestly, like when we got into this, I wasn't asking for anything, and I'm not asking for anything now. So if I got as much as a tank of gas out of all this, I mean, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
I'd be fine if that didn't happen too. So, but in this game of workers' rights, it would appear that Aaron is the winner. Da 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 da.
Even though I lost my job to AI like twice.
Yeah, but it didn't really matter. It's a game. It's like life. You know, the game life,
Exactly.
not real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, real life sucks.
it could be better.
All right. Well, that's enough for this episode.
All right. Tune in next time when we talk about drone birds.
Or shareholders. We've yet to make a decision.
I mean, both are not real. Birds aren't real, and money is not real.
In the interim, I'm Ryan.
Bye.